The Lobster is a black comedy film directed by Yorgos Lanthimos. In the near future, or alternate present, men and women are commanded by society to pair up. Romantic relationships are mandatory and nobody is allowed to remain single for very long. If they do and are unable to find a partner, they must be transformed into an animal of their choice, removing them from human society. David, recently separated from his wife, arrives at a hotel to participate in a function that pairs people up. He only has a few days to do this or else he will become a lobster, the animal that he chose. He makes a few loose friends and struggles to find a suitable mate. The men and women pair up and allegedly fall in love due to superficial similarities between them. He chooses an unfeeling woman because he believes he can trick her into thinking that he, too, is unfeeling. She discovers his ruse, and after seemingly transforming her into an animal to cover his escape, he goes to live with the Loners, a pack of humans who live in the woods and refuse to enter into relationships. He falls in love with a woman, partly because they are both nearsighted. This is not allowed among the Loners. The woman is blinded, and David, fearing losing her due to a loss in their shared eyesight, says he will blind himself as well. In their minds, this would allow them to remain together. The events of the film are narrated by the woman.
He didn't burst into tears, and he didn't think that the first thing most people do when they realize someone doesn't love them anymore is cry.
We are not watching a cautionary tale about a potential science fiction dystopia. This is not 1984. This does not exist in the world of politics. It exists in the world of relationships. We are watching an approximation of loneliness and a figurative interpretation of social pressures, particularly romantic pressures. This is not a sincere warning about what might happen in the future. We are not barreling towards a future in which humans are transformed into camels. We are seeing an exaggerated premise that does not warn of our future, but parallels real-world romance through exaggeration. The administrators of the relationship retreat and the forest-dwelling loners function as hyperbolic versions of what it means to be in a romantic relationship and what it means to be single, respectively. There is a great deal of societal pressure to be in a relationship. We are inundated with romantic imagery in our media, erotic material, romance films, the proliferation of St. Valentine's Day as a major holiday that we must celebrate or else compelled to feel as if we are antisocial or, heaven forbid, if alone on said day, a non-participant and loser. Films end with the hero getting the girl or the princess marrying the prince. Even commercials are romanticized or sexualized. Because of this, people are consistently bombarded with the notion that their lives are less meaningful if they do not have someone. Dating and marriage are considered normal, and to exist outside of this is to be somehow less than. Somehow not quite part of the human experience, as indicated in the film by the transformation of single adults into animals, or the hunting of the loners as one would another animal. The administrators of the relationship retreat, ostensibly part of the government but never given a proper name, are not meant to represent the law as much as they are meant to represent social pressure. We do this all ourselves. We pressure ourselves. Cultures vary on this. Some contain arranged marriages, nearly as mandatory as seen in the film, but statistically successful. And some cultures have this idea, this notion that once someone is in their 30s, they should consider settling down. In The Lobster, no age is given, but the implication is that all adults must be paired up, not just in relationships, but on their way to marriage. The people at the hotel, after knowing one another for only a few days, declare that they are in love, thereby saving themselves from the transformation or the uneasy option of escape to live with the loners. Marriage, even real-world marriage outside of this hyperbolic scenario, is fascinating because it means those who enter into it have created expectations about their present and future partner. One could currently be with the right person for marriage, but because they have built a kind of timeline for this relationship, when to set the date, when to have children, if at all, and so forth, they have created additional stress on themselves to meet those projected goals. People change greatly over time, and making a plan that is meant to last the rest of their lives, without the knowledge of who they will be in the future, is not possible. It's a gamble at best. Society, friends, family, media, etc., pressures couples into marrying after two people have been together for a certain amount of time. If they're not engaged within a few years, people will assume something is wrong. The pressure that these expectations put on couples forces them into an ultimatum: get married or break up. In The Lobster, the pressure is magnified by having all the people in relationships by the end of their stay at the hotel. The years that society expects of people to progress towards marriage become days instead. The participants can buy more time by shooting loners with tranquilizer guns. In the real world, people often choose their partners due to similarities between them. Social, political, religious, and so on, but these similarities do not guarantee happiness.
Room 282, couple who both studied social sciences. Name of yacht Bliss, couple prone to nosebleeds.
Single people looking for mates must declare a defining characteristic, something that is easily noticeable about themselves. If they do not share this defining characteristic, they cannot be in a relationship. In the real world, couples, particularly married couples, often extol the virtues of being together to people who are happier being alone. In The Lobster, we see an exaggeration of this as the administrators put on plays featuring the dangers of being without a partner. One person who is not in a relationship chokes to death without someone to give the Heimlich maneuver or call the ambulance. A single woman is raped while walking the street alone. This mandatory coupling is not relegated to the hotel. While in public, a security guard pointedly asks David questions while he is temporarily by himself. The believers in mandatory coupling have an entirely black and white view of the matter, a completely binary outlook. When David registers at the hotel, he mentions that he had once been in a relationship with a man. He asks to be listed as bisexual. The hostess says that this is not allowed, erasing his bisexuality. David is forced to choose between being registered as heterosexual and homosexual, and after some internal debate, reluctantly registers as the former. It's only one scene, but it's significant in how people view relationships. People ignorant of bisexuality often erroneously claim bisexual people are actually heterosexual or homosexual, depending on who they are currently dating. The possibility of someone being asexual or aromantic is never mentioned by the hotel staff, never considering the possibility. The administrator's binary view extends further. David wears size 44.5 shoes, but he is told there are no half sizes. He goes up a size. Characters who get together at the hotel are assigned children under the false impression that this will resolve any disagreements between them. This is another reference to the societal pressures people face. Not everyone chooses to have children, and their reasons really aren't anyone's business. The only problem with not wanting children is how much other people take issue with their individual choice. It is frustrating to have someone else assume that they know better than the purposefully childless man or woman about his or her personal needs, desires, and goals. Societal expectations can be incredibly invasive to individual desires. In The Lobster, children are given to some new couples only a day after getting together, which may or may not be a reference to the frequency of surprise pregnancies. The loners are similarly extreme in how they behave. All their customs and rules are related in some way to being single. Nobody is allowed to date or even flirt. Masturbation is both allowed and encouraged. They only listen to electronic music because it is easier to dance alone to it rather than romantic music or ballroom music. The loners are forced to dig their own graves rather than loved ones taking charge. This invokes the worry of dying alone. The leader of the loners is so extreme in her beliefs that she becomes monstrous when she discovers David and the nearsighted woman have developed feelings for each other.
When we turn our heads to the left, it means, I love you more than anything in the world. And when we turn our heads to the right, it means, watch out, we're in danger.
In the film, characters speak to each other in dry, unambiguous speech. They are not emotionless, though. They fight, they become upset. The woman with no feelings is considered unusual rather than the norm. These are emotional beings. Their blunt speech has less to do with feelings and more to do with a lack of subtext. The people in The Lobster have been brainwashed by a society that values the simple fact of being together as more important than the alleged intended benefit of relationships: happiness. Much in the way that real-world society proclaims the importance of traditional family in pragmatic terms. The cornerstone of society, they say. The real world, not just the film, often values the appearance of stability more than the emotional well-being and happiness of the people in said relationship. David, at least in the beginning, is brainwashed into this line of thinking. Consider his choice of animal, a lobster. He says he chose it because a lobster lives a long time and can remain fertile its entire life. Practical reasons associated with relationships. The world does not always value inner complexity. In The Lobster, they do not always tell the truth, but they always speak bluntly nonetheless. The Lobster is a world in which people in fulfilling relationships and people more comfortable being alone cannot coexist. The societal pressures have become too great, irreconcilable, and what should be a non-issue has become the only issue. The leader of the loners gives a man the choice of shooting himself or his partner. He chooses to save himself, reinforcing the leader's worldview that romantic relationships are mere social constructs and not meaningful. At the end of the film, David is forced with the choice of blinding himself and thereby living with the woman he loves, or backing out, either leaving her or perhaps lying to her about his blindness. If he blinds himself, love is real. If he does not, love is nothing. We never witness the answer. Hi everyone, if you like what I do, consider clicking on the orange Patreon link below. That's how this show happens. It's also a way for you to request an episode, so check it out.